Good morning to you all. What we're having a little look at today is a phone which I've had for quite a long time. Only one thing was wrong. I could never ever get the cover off, and I thought today this little video will hopefully explain how to remove the cover when the wrong type of screw, or rather the not complete screw, which I can show you here, is fitted to the rear of the cover that goes in there, and obviously screws into the little bit of metal. I can show it. It goes in there. Now what happens, the original type of screw, as I showed on my other videos, has a spacer in it, like a little nut, and a spring. So when you take the screw out or unscrew it, this part comes away obviously from the fixing screw. The spring holds the supporting nut or the spacing nut in such a way as you could never ever screw this in and screw it in so far that that thread goes past the, how can I explain it? It's hard to explain it, but this will screw in. I can show you down here. My explanations are probably not that good, but if this screw goes in too far, as I can show by a demonstration, normally the nut and the spring fits in there and will not allow this to screw in more or less any further than it is now. If it did, you can see what happens. Screw it right in, and then the screw becomes loose because it's got through the thread. And once it's like that, you have a hard job to remove that screw when the cover's on. You just can't do it. You can screw it, but pressing the screw down, it does that. It just goes in, and you screw it round and round, and you think you're unscrewing it, but you're not. And the only way to take that out is to gently, with the cover on, apply, I can show this on here, apply a little bit of pressure where my thumbnail is or fingernail is. Get a screwdriver in there and gently, you don't want to obviously break the case, gently apply a little bit of pressure so that the screw comes out more, because you're putting pressure on there, the screw's coming out, and the idea is obviously to allow you to get the threads to latch on so you can unscrew it and take the screw out. That is the way I've done this one, and it obviously works. You can see the screw down there. It's missing, as I say, the spacer nut and the screw and the little spring. I suppose you could replace the if you could replace putting a normal screw in that's threaded all the way down to hold it on. Why they didn't originally do this, I don't know. But there we are. That's a little quick tip of how to get the cover off. And this cover's been on here for a blooming long time. I've had it upstairs for quite a while. I think it's one I just put to one side, not worrying about it. And also it's missing a line cord, as you can see down there. Now, have a little look. This is 746. Get my numbers right. Yep, 746. And looking at the case, it's one worth keeping, because this is the earlier case type. This is called a Mark 1. And you can see with the Mark 2 how different it is. You've got an area there where the receiver goes, but with this one it can slip out. And the argument was, or the reason this could slip out, and you have to have a vivid imagination. I don't know how it would, but they said that it could slip out and act as if the receiver is off the hook. Show you what I mean. So they obviously changed it, and they brought this style in, and that became Mark 1A. But as you can see, the one we got here is a Mark 1, which is possibly a little bit rarer, because they obviously found that it was a fault and it was changed. Well, this telephone was brought out, it superseded the 706. I personally prefer the 706, but this one came out so that you could use various buttons. This one has the one button, but you can see this phone over here has 4 buttons, which are slightly different from the 706, which only had the one. But that was obviously an improvement. It was brought out by the company, the Automatic Electric Laboratories. They made the prototype of this phone, and it was introduced by the Post Office, or BT, in 1967. Now 67 was a very good year. I quite like 67. In my opinion, happier times. But anyhow, I'm not going to get political or get involved talking about things like that. Listen, just say that I quite like the 67, and the telephone was named or numbered 746. And as I say, the first model was the Mark 1. Now let's have a little look at the back. Here we've got the model 746F. I think F means figures, and which would probably correspond because there was no letters. By this time we had all figure numbering, which meant the exchange codes, like in my case LIB Liberty, that was where I used to live, and funny enough where I worked. Cherrywood, which is also within the same building, that was CHE. Cherrywood, well, that's no longer gone, it's all numbers. So anyhow, that's the one. This SPK I think refers to the maker. I'm not sure what that is. It can be looked up, so it is possible to trace from the codes which company manufactured the phone. And you've got 71 being the year 1971, stroke 1 meaning Mark 1, which this one would be. So it looks like these were still made in the 70s with the floating type of handset rest, as opposed to the newer ones which had this type. Anyhow, that's more or less all I've got to say on that. The main idea was to just show how to take the cover off if you have one of these dodgy screws, which, how can I pick it up? There we are. One of these dodgy screws. Possibly, I don't know if the original screws are available still. Don't know. But obviously a normal screw with the correct thread and the thread that goes the full length could be substituted. Okay, it's not the real thing, but at least it's better to have that than this one, which gets trapped in there, and you have to go through the palaver of putting a little bit of pressure on the case, but gently put the pressure on. Remember, these cases, I think this is a plastic case, would be quite brittle, so gently do it with a screwdriver that's sort of this sort of size. And that does that. Anyhow, show you the end. As I say, it's a bit of dust under there because this hasn't been taken out for a long time. As far as I know, it would probably work. Got a number in there as well. The case number, if we got one, yeah. There's the case number, 1DCO 703. A couple of code numbers and letters there. So that obviously describes what type of case it is. And it has provision for one button with the blank in. I say the case could be cleaned up a bit. Normally I don't worry too much about the patina, but this one, I think the old going over with a bit of Duraglit, Bluebell, they're virtually the same thing, or even T-cut, can probably bring a bit of shine back, which, yeah, okay, I would agree with. The line on the back, on the top there, you can see that obviously where the handset's been, it's prevented light getting on it, and it's changed the colour, or rather it's retained the correct colour, but the rest of it has gone a dull. That, as I say, I call patina. That just shows you the phone's been about a bit. At the back you've got a carrying handle. See, this model also had the handle, or the carrying handle, whereas the 706 didn't. And I say that with tongue in cheek because some manufacturers, not BT ones, but some of the other manufacturers in fact put a metal strap or even a plastic strap between the two plungers on the 706, but originally it was intended to not have that. And when you think this idea of a carrying handle goes back many years. I've got an automatic electric phone from Canada which has a handle, so it's not a new idea, it was quite an old idea. Anyway, let me see what I'm going to say next. Oh yeah, there's your dial. Now on it was, show you, was a number. Where that is I don't know. It's the, well, it'd be the London area, 859, London Director area. The opal or the plastic cover. Now, some cases referring to the case which, right there, is a job to get off. They're not, I never thought these to be that good at taking the covers off on these or the 706s compared to the American 500 model, which are far better at taking the case, the cover off. But anyhow, this is what we have to do. This is only held on with one screw, and obviously area under there which fits in. You have to slide that part in, and often it's difficult to take to release the dial when you're taking the cover off or putting the cover back on. Some people, I've been lucky, I've not needed to do this, but some people do in fact remove the finger wheel by unscrewing the screw in the middle there. Remember, this screw can be two types, either flat or countersink, so it has to be the right one. If you put the wrong way around, you can crack the finger wheel. But what they do, they take that off, and that gives you a little bit of more free space to take the cover off. And just a tip there, if you know, one way of doing it. I've never needed to do that. I've been lucky. You just gently I say, press down on there, and you should be able to remove the cover. If you want to take the numbers out, well, you have to do that to get to that screw. I use a little rubber plunger thing that you stick on the middle. And you can pull that straight out. There's also another way of removing that by, I think, putting a screwdriver, I don't know whether it's in this side or the other side. This is, I think, the official way of doing it. I'm not too sure which side it goes in, but anyhow, you're better off by getting a little plunger or a bit of sticky tape, bit of insulating tape, sticky tape, stick it on there, and you can just gently pull it off. That, believe it or not, is more or less it. Any questions, feel free to ask. As you can see, this has got a little bit of antique dust, so it would benefit by gently using a soft brush and removing the dust. But that is your 746 Mark I telephone. Thanks for watching. I will put the case, not screw it back in with that screw. That screw is completely useless, and it looks like it's been mangled as well. So whoever had this phone before me possibly tried to undo it, and they gave it up. This is why I think it turned up at the boot sale. This would have been a boot sale job. many years ago. So that is it. Thanks for watching, listening. And once again, I'm going to get myself a nice cup of coffee and put this on YouTube. So thanks for watching. Thank you.